Welcome to Ringside, Muhammad Ali here on ESPN Classic. I'm Brian Kenny, just blocks away from the Brooklyn Bridge, at the site of another historic New York City landmark, Gleason's Gym, home for hundreds of world champions. The author F. Scott Fitzgerald famously said there are no second acts in American lives. Well, Muhammad Ali proved the exception to the rule.
I'm fighting for my freedom, not just a fight, but this is for my freedom. Various things that's happened to me and the write-ups and this and that for the past 3 years have made me much stronger, more determined to come back still a winner over many who predicted I won't.
For the next 3 hours, Ringside, Return from Exile, will examine Ali's return to the ring, recapturing the world heavyweight title that was taken away from him in 1967.
Muhammad Ali has won. Muhammad Ali has won by a knockdown. By a knockdown. The thing they said was impossible, he's done.
We'll roll out the vintage Ali bouts from the classic library and sprinkle some hidden gems from the archives, plus have commentary throughout the broadcast from our distinguished panel. Joining me here at Gleason's is my co-host, boxing historian, raconteur, and bon vivant, Bert Randolph Sugar, Muhammad Ali's longtime trainer, the legendary Angelo Dundee, Showtime boxing analyst, and our old ESPN friend, Al Bernstein, Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist Dave Anderson of the New York Times, and author, journalist, and longtime Ali observer Pete Hamill. Here are some of the historic fights on tap. See how Ali went down to Georgia for his first comeback bout against Jerry Quarry, the #1 contender with the big left hook. And then it's off to Madison Square Garden for Ali's return to the Mecca of boxing versus Oscar Bonavena, the tough and gutsy heavyweight that had Ali in some trouble before the greatest finished him off in spectacular fashion in the 15th round. We cue up the fight of the century, the first fight in the epic Ali-Frazier trilogy from Madison Square Garden in 1971. All the hype, all the bad blood, and all the highlights from a fight that transcended boxing and linked these two great champions together forever. And if Ali Frazier isn't enough, how about the Rumble in the Jungle? One of the biggest events in boxing history. The seemingly invincible George Foreman punches himself out in Zaire as Ali rope-a-dopes his way back to the heavyweight title. On March 22nd, 1967, Muhammad Ali defended his heavyweight title against the #1 contender, Zora Folley, at Madison Square Garden. It would be Ali's last fight before his 3.5-year exile from boxing. Just a month after the Folley fight, Ali refused induction into the U.S. Army, and his license was suspended by the New York State Boxing Commission, and he was stripped of his world title. This Sports Century piece has more now on Ali's banishment from boxing.
Mr. Muhammad Ali has just refused to be inducted into the United States Armed Forces.
You said you were the people's champion?
Yes, sir.
Do you think that you're acting like a people's champion?
Yes, sir.
When he said, I ain't got nothing against them Viet Cong, they ain't never called me nigger, he meant that, and he meant that sincerely.
I will not go 10,000 miles to help murder another poor people simply to continue the domination of white slave masters over the darker people of the earth.
There's a war that he considers unjust, and his conscience will not allow him to do it. Now, certainly, I would endorse that, I would justify his action, and I would give him my strongest support in his doing it.
There is a substantial segment of society that cheered. There was an equally substantial segment that thought that Ali was not only wrong, but engaged in what amounted to treason.
I don't think the society had any respect for a draft dodger. I don't think they had any respect for any person who shrunk from his duties as a citizen.
This fella they call Clay or Muhammad Ali, whatever he wants to call himself, is a disgrace to the nation.
Ali had defied the patriotic precepts of the country by saying, I'm not going to participate in the war effort. He lost 3 years of his ability as a boxer. He lost 3 years of income. But once he had paid the price, even people who disagreed with Ali, even people who thought, this is a big blabbermouth, this guy's a lot of hot air, said, you know what, he paid the price. And anytime an American pays the price, other Americans say, that's my man.
Well, eventually, much of the nation would come around to the thinking of Muhammad Ali. But Angelo, what was going on in your mind when Muhammad was making his stand?
Thank God I've always kept my vision about the fighter, about not what this kid done. I knew what he done was for real because he was a sincere kid, and he felt it was right.
Did you ever speak to him about what he was doing?
No, none of my business. Okay. All I know was the fistic end of it, and that's why I dealt with the situation my whole life, and I never had a problem with him.
And now your thoughts, though, 3 years,
See,
3.5 years.
I learned as a youngster in New York City. Some kid came to the gym and he says, Ange, that wife of mine, she's such a pain. And I said, well, you know how women are. So he went and told his wife I sided with him. I lost the fighter, I lost the respect of the wife. You know, so you keep your mind closed. I am the guy in the gym. I'm the guy working with the fighter. Personal life, I never used to go across the bay when he was training in Miami. I never went across to Overtown. I went there once to give him a birthday party. So I never got involved with the personal life of any of my fighters. None of my business.
During those 3.5 years that he was out, and he couldn't fight. They'd taken his visa away. He couldn't go overseas. He was defrocked by not only New York State, but every other boxing commission, some of whom did it within the day before he even went to trial, just the failure to step forward. He was reduced to making college tour speeches. And I remember one up at Harvard as he went around to the various campuses. And he had given his speech, and the MC, Dick Cavett, had asked for questions, and he'd answered all the questions. Dick Cavett ended the show by saying, Muhammad, if I gave you 2 words, any 2 words, could you make a poem up about yourself? And he thought a second, he said, me. We. So he kept that ebullyancy during the 3.5 years, but he really was suffering. I mean, he was on Broadway in a show, but he had to scramble to make ends meet.
Al, this is a fighter giving up his prime, basically. This is 3 long years where Ali was at his best, would have been at his best.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that I'm sure Angie finds fascinating when he looks back at this, because the Ali that by the time it fought Foley had reinvented, I think, the heavyweight division. There had never been a heavyweight as fast or that looked like a middleweight. Isn't that? Don't you think that's true, guys?
He was a bantamweight that looked like a middleweight.
And was never going to be that exactly again because of that layoff, even though he still became a great fighter.
What are your thoughts on that, Angelo, as far as his prime and what we
His prime was there, Foley, because he looked so great taking the guy apart. And Foley was no pussycat. You can knock him dead with counter shots and everything, but he couldn't time my guy. My guy was just too quick, too fast. It was a great night. You know, it turns you on when you see a guy do numbers on a guy you know is very effective, good fighter. And I warned him because great counterpuncher, Zora. And he got dumped a couple times with Sonny Banks and guys like that. So I'm envisioning the fight. We're going to get nailed. So I told him, box, stay to the outside like he did. But then he wound up nailing them sucker shots.
Now, his fight against Foley, what before he was stripped of his crown, did you think he was capable of, and who was he going to fight next had but not that happened? Who would he have fought after Foley?
Well, he'd have fought anybody. That was the beauty of it.
That's a dreaded opponent, TBA?
Yeah.
You never know who's going to show up. Yeah.
Anybody.
Let's look ahead then. How does the Quarry fight happen, Bert? How does that come about?
Well, there has been a lot of, if you will, negotiation to bring back Ali. Remember, his case has been appealed, turned down, and now it's on appeal to the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, there are promoters trying to get him to fight somewhere. They've got tentative offers before the politicians come in to fight in about 4 different jurisdictions, and then it's withdrawn. South Carolina is one of them. Out on the West Coast, I think it was Oregon. But somehow, some way, somewhere, and Harold Conrad was part of this while the machinations are going on, to fight in Georgia, which does not have a state athletic commission. It only had a city athletic commission in Atlanta. So they went there, and somehow the mayor and the leaders of the black community put the fight together, at which point the governor, Maddox, a states' rightser, of a little to the right of Louis XV, who was against it, could say nothing. So it wound up in Atlanta in October of '70 against not an easy opponent, Jerry Quarry, one of the toughest.
We're going to look at that fight when we come back. We'll take a short break. We're back here ringside again. Ali Quarry in 1970 when we return. During his training for his return to the ring against Jerry Quarry, Muhammad Ali was unusually subdued. After his 3.5-year ban from boxing, the self-proclaimed greatest of all time had no predictions, no poems, and no nickname as of yet for his opponent. His comeback didn't thrill Muhammad Ali. He told journalists covering the Quarry fight, quote, "Fighting isn't as exciting as it used to be. There's more excitement at the colleges where I've been lecturing." Ali's critics questioned whether he still had the stamina and the skill to be successful in the ring again. Here's how Ali responded to the skeptics as he trained for the Quarry bout in Miami.
They say it's a miracle for a man of my caliber. Even top trainers, people like Jack Dempsey, Joe Frazier's training, all these people have been saying it's impossible for a fella to get in shape to do the job that I have to do. So not only will I be defeating Quarry if I win, but all of these so-called experts, and I'll still be right and they're still wrong after all. The people will be very surprised to see my condition, my speed, my reflexes after 3 years, and I will also predict that anyone who saw any of my fights, if I have slowed down, the naked eye won't be able to detect it.
All right, Angelo Dundee, was there any boxing workouts or anything going on during his exile? Did he stay? Did he get in the ring at all?
See, he used to travel around doing these college things, and he came to Miami. So I did this bit with the college, and I said, why don't you stick around for another week? I'll make you spar with Jimmy Ellis for a change. Because Jimmy Ellis always used to work with him. So Jimmy Ellis had a fight on. He went and sparred with him for a whole week. And wherever he was attracted to a gym. So don't hear that baloney about, he loved gymnasiums. That was his theater. That where he was at his height because he was so sharp.
Did you notice at all, Angelo, that he might have lost anything like speed or anything in those 3.5 years?
Naturally, the layoff takes away the balance, the reflexes. You see it. Sure, he slowed down. But it wasn't the same bouncing kid that he was. There's my Fifth Street gym. Ain't that a nice place? It got rickety steps, not like this Gleason gym. Gleason's got iron steps.
Hey, Al, get us up to speed on Jerry Quarry. Give people an idea who this guy was.
As Bert aptly pointed out, Jerry Quarry wasn't just an okay heavyweight. He was a very, very good heavyweight who at that time was able to beat everybody except the very top heavyweights. And one of the things that, to give Angelo his props, I don't think there's ever been anyone in boxing who, in guiding a fighter, is more adept at figuring out who is a tough opponent that his fighter can beat. He did it with Sugar Ray Leonard. He's done it with many other fighters, did it with Ali. And Jerry Quarry turned out to be an enormously credible opponent that was, in fact, the perfect guy for Ali to fight.
Why Quarry, Angelo?
Well, he was strictly a counter fighter. Quarry was very dangerous backing up to the ropes. He'd counter you. So naturally, I told him I stay off to it because I worked with Jimmy Ellis.
Right, against Quarry.
You know, we won a tournament. And I learned Quarry pretty good. In fact, a couple of newspaper guys, I told them before the fight what was going to happen. Bad fight, but we're going to win. That was the important thing.
And the problem was we didn't get enough of Ali. It was a stoppage in the 3rd round on a cut. Teddy Bentham, Quarry's trainer, stopped it because there is a cut that comes open on Quarry's eye that he could see all the way through, and he stops it. So we really didn't get a feel on Ali so much as he wins, and there's a euphoria that he's back, but we're not quite sure he's all the way back.
All right, well, let's go back in time right now. Again, 1970, Muhammad Ali versus Jerry Quarry.
Main event, 15 rounds. Introducing from Bellflower, California, he's wearing blue trunks. He weighs 197 and a half. Jerry Quarry. His opponent from Louisville, Kentucky. He's wearing white trunks. He weighs 213 and a half. Return of the champion, Muhammad Ali. Main event, 15 rounds. Tony?
Mohammed Jerry Quarry. I'm here to enforce the rules of the commission. Now, you scored a knockdown. You must go to the farthest neutral corner and stay there until I tell you to come out. All right? 3 knockdowns is out. Now, listen. The fighter will be saved by the bell. Okay?
Not listening. Wait a minute. Will we keep the crowd down, please? The referee, it's very important, wants to give them the instructions.
Just listen to me. If you score a knockdown, you must go to the farthest neutral corner and stay there until I tell you to come out. If the fight is on the floor and the bell rings, the bell will not save anybody from being knocked out. The count must continue. The seconds, please stay out.
3 knockdowns.
3 knockdowns is out.
3 knockdowns is
it's
win.
voided. All right? Any questions? Shake hands and good luck to both of you.
All right, we're ready to go. Clay in the white trunks, Corey in the blue. 15 rounds. In the blue. 15 rounds. Clay starting off very fast, using good combinations with the right hand. And Corey gets in a good right. 2 minutes. There's a slight redness just over the bridge of Jerry Corey's nose. That left jab is finding its mark.
Stay tuned for more of Muhammad Ali versus Jerry Quarry here on Ringside. Al Bernstein, Angelo Dundee, and Bert Sugar will break down the fight here at Gleason's Gym in Brooklyn. And later this hour, find out how Argentina's Oscar Bonavena took the greatest to the limit in a 15-round brawl from Madison Square Garden.
He is the aggressor. Bonavena is powerful, awkward, cumbersome, ponderous, but the aggressor.
This is Ringside, a Muhammad Ali marathon here on ESPN Classic. Now back to Atlanta for round 2 of his 1970 comeback fight against Jerry Quarry.
Both fighters are up. The staring contest that took place prior to the start of the fight apparently had no effect on Jerry Quarry, but it might be that Clay's left hand will before too long. Quarry leaping forward to connect with that hook, his left hook, his best punch. Left and right by Clay on the combination. Good left hand by Clay, coming backwards on the punch. Clay effectively using his advantage in reach, 10 inches, to stay away from that left hand of Quarry's. Right to the midsection, a left hook to the chin by Quarry. Bill, it looks as though Muhammad is having quite a comeback, and he appears to be in excellent shape.
Well, his jab is certainly sharp. He's moving well. But once again, Tom, I just feel that we're all witnessing a first, something that none of us can really say how this is going to come about because of the time. 3.5 years, he's just 28 years old, and it's quite an experience.
Well, we'll certainly find out. So far, he has looked in fine condition. Jerry Quarry in the blue trunks, trying to work to the inside. And of course, Clay, having the superior speed, has effectively so far stayed out of range of that left hook. Jerry said in his pre-fight strategy he was going to try to get inside to cut him off. So far, he has not been able to do that. took to the body by Quarry.
That's a good test.
Clay is using that left jab just like a piston, constantly keeping Quarry off balance by hammering it out there. There's a slight redness above the right eye of Jerry Quarry. There's a cut over Quarry's left eye. Cut is bleeding profusely. And once again, left and right combination by Clay. Quarry is fighting back, but the cut has been opened. You see the timer, 15 seconds. There's the bell to end round 3. Jerry Quarry going back to the corner. While his trainer, Teddy Bentham, Lou Gross, and Willie Ketchum go to work on that cut. Referee Tony Perez standing directly above Quarry's corner, watching him. And Perez is calling for the doctor. Quarry is upset about it. Got to kind of hold him back. Referee Tony Perez has signaled the fight is over, apparently because of an eye cut.
It's a terrible cut, Tom. You and I both can see it.
There's no doubt about it being a very bad cut. The doctors, there were 4 in attendance tonight. Dr. Calvin Brown, Dr. James Ellison, Dr. Joel Wilbur, and Dr. Jerome Siegel. They said one of each doctor would be working in the corner. The question now is which one made the decision. Referee Tony Perez stopped it. Apparently, Quarry not able to answer the bell for the 3rd round.
All right, Muhammad Ali is back. Angelo, your thoughts? What did you see in the ring that night?
Well, I saw that, he'd been away for a while. But I also saw that he got nailed one time with the counter. But he took the shot. Because Quarry's a good banger either hand. So it's not only a left-hand counter, right-hand counter. But what I liked about it, he kept him turning, kept him moving, kept him off balance. Hard to do. Quarry was a sneaky good banger.
Al, he looked fluid. I mean, watching the crispness, it looked fluid.
Yeah, and you know what's fascinating? There's a couple of things about this. Number one, Muhammad Ali, if you look back at all his fights, he makes good fighters look very ordinary. He's making Jerry Quarry look very ordinary here, and he wasn't an ordinary fighter. And the other thing that's fascinating is, all these fights that we take a look at and that we'll look at, Muhammad Ali was bigger than his opponents. Only George Foreman a few pounds bigger than him. So you can see the size difference, bigger and faster.
There was one thing that I noticed, and it was that Ali was uncharacteristically not Ali in that fight. In other words, his hand speed was there, but a lot of his foot movement yet hadn't caught up to where he was 3.5 years ago.
What was the state of his confidence, Angelo? It's funny, we don't really talk about Ali and confidence because he appeared so overconfident, but what was the state of his confidence?
Every time he went to a fight, it looks like he was going to a party. In other words, I had to make a deal with the commission not to get him to the arena too soon. Only because he would start working out, put his trunks on, his shoes on, ain't I pretty? And I made sure I kept mirrors out of the dressing room. because I'd been posing, and he'd been working himself to death.
Was he anxious about this fight of all the fights?
He never was anxious about any fight.
So this was just business as usual, even though usual hadn't been 3.5 years?
That's the way he is. So nothing bothers this kid. He's remarkable.
Let's listen in right now. Again, Ali, right after the fight, here's Muhammad Ali with Tom Harmon right after the bout with Jerry Quarry.
I've been working for the past 3 years, but not hard, just road work. But I like to say Quarry was, I don't know, I imagine I won easy, but it was rough. He was tricky, he hit hard, and if it wasn't for my speed, it wouldn't have ended like it did.
I noticed you did a very fine job on blocking his most effective punch, the left hook. I assume that you worked on this a bit.
Yes, I have a couple of sparring partners with a good left hook. They fight a lot like Quarry. And a friend of mine out in Los Angeles, Ron Rich, told me about him and sent him to me. And that was a great help to me. I'd also like to say I'm glad that I am back so we can settle this confusion about Joe Frazier and all the people who thinks he's still the champion. And I hope something can soon be worked out where we can solve this whole heavyweight mess.
All right, solve the heavyweight mess, but Oscar Bonavena would be first. Bert, what was it like that week with Ali?
It was a second coming. Everybody had descended upon Atlanta because it was Muhammad Ali. And there was one moment at the Hyatt Hotel where his faithful had gathered, and Ali was taking an elevator. That was one of those glass bullet-like elevators a la Flash Gordon, and he is going up, and they are cheering him, and he's waving to them. It's like the rising of the Messiah. But it was just the limousines and the pimp mobiles, they were all there. It was the biggest week of partying I've seen. Climactically, it ended in an interesting party where invitations were given out at ringside for a party to come to. And it was some hustlers who, when the people arrived, they stripped them down and stole all their money and their clothing.
You didn't go to that party?
I was not given an
Okay,
invitation.
good.
I might have had I been given an invitation.
You know that, yes. All right, we're going to pick this up again. We'll get down again. We're going toward the showdown, of course, with Joe Frazier. But first, another fight with Oscar Bonavena. We're back ringside right after this. Welcome back to ringside. Muhammad Ali here on ESPN Classic. I'm Brian Kenny. Just 6 weeks after stopping Jerry Quarry in 3 rounds, Ali returned to the ring against Oscar Bonavena. This time, the bout was not in Atlanta. It was back in the Mecca in New York City. Angelo Dundee, why Oscar Bonavena?
I'd like to see if he can handle strength, and that's what Bonavena was. Strength, a little bit on the awkward side. Wasn't it Chevalo? Chevalo was right there. Bonavena gave you kind of phony motion, sliding on you.
Well, he had that barrel chest he loved to shove into you.
Built like a brick outhouse, but the guy couldn't speak English. He kept telling Muhammad, chicken, chicken, chicken. He meant chicken.
Okay. Al, what about Bonavena?
He was an interesting character. You know, he was led a very colorful life, and even in death, it was colorful. He moved to Las Vegas and met his demise in his early 30s when he was murdered at a Las Vegas brothel. There was a lot of backstories.
I wondered what you'd call it.
Yes, and he was a character, a real character, and as Bert pointed out, a very, and Angelo said, a very strong fighter, very ponderous with his punches, but had given Joe Frazier fits in the 2 fights that they had.
He was 46-6, 37 knockouts, and the 6 losses were 2 to Frazier, 1 to Ellis, 1 to Zora Foley, but he had knocked down Joe Frazier twice in 1 round.
Yep.
So, yes, he could punch, yes, he could take a punch, and yes, he'd never been knocked out. Look at this.
That's something.
There's Frazier, right hand.
And that's because against a shorter fighter, much more effective, but as Angie, again, his genius in matching, a taller fighter like Ali, though, didn't give him the opportunities to do this.
The oddity there is Ali was not that tall. I made him stand tall. 6'2", and he looked like he was 6'6".
Yeah. You made him taller. Who knew you could do this?
Well, you are a genius, aren't you?
And remember, if he'd have knocked down Frazier a 3rd time, that fight was over in that round.
What were your thoughts on that fight? I mean, putting him up against the guy that put Frazier on the canvas, Angelo.
Well, Frazier was there. The guy was able to nail him. I mean, it's a solid. In other words, Muhammad's movement took away the power of the guy.
Right.
That was the key.
All this, nobody moved like Ali.
Nobody.
Let's listen in right now. Here's Muhammad Ali getting ready for his fight with Bonavena.
He wants to make me suffer, and I like to announce here, I'm going to taunt him, I'm going to talk to him, and whoop him. He'll never talk about another soul, brother.
All right, Ali, getting his legs under him and getting his tongue going for this one. What about Bonavena? What about Argentina, the fighters from there, Bert?
There have been great Argentine fighters, heavyweights. You look at Luis Angel Firpo, who fought Dempsey. They were tough. They were bullish. I mean, Firpo was called the wild bull of the Pampas. Yes. Bonavena, no less. Interesting point, though. This fight, second one on Ali's comeback, is December 7th, 1970. Now, December 7th is a hallowed date in American history. And there were pickets out front of the Garden that night. Ali, a draft dodger, in their words. Dick Young, the columnist, and several. How could Ali defile this sacred date by fighting on this date, which had been picked by the Garden, not by Ali? Mm-hmm. But it did cause a sensation, and it was the beginning of it laying the groundwork for the Frazier-Ali fight and the Vietnam conflict that was to come. But it was December 7th, 1970.
Let's go there right now. Howard Cosell has round number one, Bonavena Ali at Madison Square Garden.
Start of round one. Watch Ali as he circles steadily to the left. Watch Bonavena try and cut the ring on him. Right in half, going right at him. He'll work hard to Ali's midsection if he can. Ali will use the left jabs, counting on the swiftness. A warning from Mark Kahn. Here's a brawler, Bonavena. Occasionally, under strategies taught to him by Clancy, he'll try to retreat to a corner, lure Ali in, and then go right to that midsection, if he can. Telling him to fight clean. Ringo claiming that Ali shoved him down. Ringo in the blue trunks with the red waistband, Ali in the red trunks with the white waistband and white side trim. See Ringo's name on his pants. We're coming up to the 2-minute mark in round one. That left to Bonavena's connected on Ali's right jaw. This is not picture fighting such as Ali is used to. It's not easy against Bonavena. Look at that. This is like an alley brawl as far as Oscar's concerned. 20 seconds to go in the first round. And no sign yet of the Ali skills, really, against this kind of fight. The old Ali skills. Another warning from Mark Kahn and a stern one. The end of round one.
Stay tuned for more of the 1970 Ali-Bonavena fight at Madison Square Garden. Ali, after feeling out his opponent, picks up the pace.
This is the first sign of Muhammad Ali as we used to know him. The quick hands in there again.
This is Ringside, a Muhammad Ali marathon here on ESPN Classic. For program information, log on to ESPN.com. Keyword Ringside.